in 2013, a Supreme Court decision basically gutted the crown jewel of the civil rights movement, the Voting Rights Act, with Justice Roberts. We've heard about this case so much as we looked at it, but I was so glad that that was included in the documentary. And in some ways, I felt like it was the most important part of it because it's so relevant to today's generation of civil rights fighters and Americans. What about that year? What do you think?
As they're eulogizing Rosa Parks, right? As they're saying all the amazing things that Rosa Parks did for voting rights and for civil rights, right? Literally the same time, the left hand is doing this, the right hand is killing the Voting Rights Act. I mean, that's the hypocrisy. And I think it really does bring the doc into being more than just a historic look back. Here's a story of a woman you've heard of. It really is understand how the fight for civil rights works. Understand that there's so much hypocrisy around people talking about doing a thing while literally undermining the very thing that they're pretending to be highlighting and elevating. And and I think it's one of those things that gets to a little bit more about the character of Rosa Parks. This was something she was very familiar with. She knew from her childhood how unfair things were, how Black children were always given lesser, worse school buses, worse opportunities, worse schools, and she was mad about it, and so this idea of Rosa Parks as this silent, sweet little old lady who one day was tired, she would say, yeah, I was tired, but I was tired of being treated badly. I mean, she was mad about injustice. And so I think a lot of reporters missed that, this idea of like, I'm tired. They thought it meant, it's been a long day at work and her feet hurt. No, it wasn't that at all. And so I think that's really important.
It's kind of what I hear so often, certainly on social media and just from Black folks, this idea, I'm just so exhausted.
Right. Yeah.
I hear that over and over. And I always want
to. It's been an exhausting time. And yeah, I think it does wear you down. And some of that, I think there's real strategy in that, right? I think there is a real intentional strategy of wearing people down. For example, I'm sure you've been talking about it or of it. In Florida, people who voted, who had felony convictions, who were allowed to vote, but then all of a sudden found that they were being arrested by some special election task force, bulk of them Black people, because they actually, I guess, technically weren't allowed to vote, even though they were told they could vote. That works to chill people who are going to vote, right? Like if and it's unclear and nobody really knows why, and they were literally told they could vote, and now they're being arrested and they have prior convictions. So being arrested again is hugely serious. And at the very least, there'll be a massive fine, right? Like what a better way to stop people from voting and stop people from even thinking about voting who might have a conviction in their past if they know, holy crap, that could happen to me. And I don't want to take that on. Those are the insidious ways you actually work to slow and stop people from, exercising the right to vote.
In the film, this is the unveiling of her statue in the Capitol Rotunda, this wonderful statue, and in the Supreme Court across the street, they're removing voting rights. And so I just wanted to get one more, just commentary from you on what has actually happened. You see Stacey Abrams in Georgia up for, governor. She ran a couple years before, and she's been the leader, but there's so many other activists, specifically Black women in Georgia, that helped change the face of the Senate. But right now, actively, states are making it harder for Black folks to vote. And I just wanted to get one more comment on how important, how that's being done right now.
Listen, I think it's being done consistently, and I think it's being done by putting obstacles in people's way. We did a story on the show that I do, matter of fact, that looked at how hard it is for people who are Native Americans to vote, right? Because all you have to do, you don't have to say there's going to be a poll tax. You don't have to say we don't want you to vote. You just have to say you absolutely can vote. I mean, it's a 2-hour drive into the one polling place, so good luck with that. But you're welcome to vote. I mean, it's not close to you, and you'll probably have to take a day off of work. And if you have a job that doesn't really allow you, right, because we don't give people the day off to vote, a lot of people have to work on voting on election day. So there's lots of ways that you can undermine the process without saying, I'm going to undermine the process. And I think that that's really what we've tried to highlight in this doc, and why I like correcting the narrative to being one of the fight for civil rights is a slog, There's
Yeah.
nothing accidental about it. You don't one day roll out of bed and stumble onto a bus and decide not to get up, and then suddenly you're an icon in the civil rights movement. It just doesn't. That is not the story. The story is tougher, is harder. It's much more work. It's much less sexy. It's not simplistic. It's you slog and you slog and you slog for 20 years. And then one day, the thing that you've worked for all your life, as you step 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, one day that moment actually comes to fruition after a series of things that could have been moments. So I like the truth. I like the tougher story always.